I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all? This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, we sit down with visionary visual artist and director Scott Berman. Known for his long-running creative collaborations with Tripping Daisy, DeLaughter, and the Polyphonic Spree, Scott has helped define the immersive visual language behind some of Dallas's most influential music projects. His work spans early band visuals, deep involvement in the rave and experimental art scenes, and a constant push to expand what live and cinematic visuals can be. That evolution culminated in Resolution, his first immersive film created in collaboration with DeLaughter and Tripping Daisy, and presented using dome and planetarium technology. Scott joins us to talk about creative evolution, collaboration, and how immersive art continues to reshape the way audiences experience music and storytelling. Here he is. The Dallas Famous Podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. Hello and welcome back to Dallas Famous. I'm at the Cinephonic Studio with Scott Berman. Scott, you're a visual artist, you're a graphic designer. Like what do you tell people when they say, what do you do?
Oh, wow, a little bit of everything. But I would say, a visual artist is a good name for it.
Okay.
A visualist.
A visualist.
Yeah.
I like that. You've been doing it for a long time. Like, you're Dallas born. What?
Actually, kind of. I was born in Philadelphia, but it was only for 2 weeks. That's where I got my thick accent.
Oh, okay. Oh, now I hear it. Yeah.
Northeastern accent.
And your attitude, probably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but so you grew up in Dallas.
Yeah.
What, like, at an early age, was there something that started to pop up for you that, like, made you interested in doing this kind of work?
Yeah, actually, it kind of goes back to my brother. Actually, when he was in 7th grade, he got into this art class. The teacher was called Miss Woolheater, and Miss Woolheater, it was a cut-up class. If you wanted to make jokes and have fun, and you were a class clown, you needed to be in this class.
Okay.
So my brother went through that class first. They said, "Man, you got to get in. You got to get in Miss Woolheater's class. I mean, it's so much fun." And I actually, it was an art class, and so I got into art through that. Of course, a lot of it was cutting up and doing all that. One of my art projects was always, what could you do to top sort of the cut up that somebody did the day before. But so I painted a beard and mustache on my face and turned it in as my art project, and got kicked out of school for the day. But
really,
yeah,
I guess.
But she really actually ended up inspiring me and giving me private art lessons, and that's really how I got into art. Was that?
So you started drawing first, or were you doing painting?
Drawing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so was that something early on? You're like, at what point was it clicking? Like, I want to do something with this the rest of my life.
Oh, it wasn't really like I grew up, when I was young at like 4 years old. I told my dad that I wanted to be a doctor, so he kind of re-emphasized that like throughout my entire childhood. Hey, this is my son Scott. Tell him what you want to be. I want to be a doctor. And so I grew up my entire life thinking I was going to be a doctor until I went into college for pre-med.
Oh, wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. And I realized that I hadn't ever thought of like what I really wanted to do. It was just always planned for me.
Yeah.
So I went from that into pre-med and into architecture, into interior design. It's like all this is going the furthest away from pre-med possible. And then I just, told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be an artist." He's like, what?
So I'm sure he's super
so I
happy
went,
to hear that, right?
Yeah. So I went to North Texas, not to get a degree, but to take every art class, fine arts class that I could take. So I took 3 years of nothing but art. Pretty much any art class that they offered, I took it.
Huh.
Sculpture, painting, figure drawing, interior design, photography, like every type of art class that I could. I didn't take no prerequisites for a degree because at the time I didn't care about a degree because I wanted to be an artist.
Right. Right.
So it really kind of spawned from that.
Did you see at that point, were you thinking like, how can I make money at this? Was there like
Not
a
at
medium?
all.
No.
It wasn't about money at all. It's just about expression, and doing something that I enjoyed and that made a difference. And it's really about that.
Right. Right. So was this around the time where Tripping Daisy started to do live shows?
Yeah. So Tim and I worked at the Hard Rock Cafe together. Tim and I have been best friends since like the 7th grade. Grew up together. And so after, I was putting myself through school at North Texas, I waited tables at the Hard Rock. And so I ended up opening Hard Rock cafes all around the world and went to Orlando and was waiting tables there. And they offered me a position to be the manager in the Bahamas. Or St. Thomas, sorry. And so, as a 23-year-old, you're like, this is going to be a blast. I'm going to do it.
Sure.
So I asked them if I could go home first because I'd been gone for almost a year. And I said, I want to take sick because they were wanting a 2-year commitment. So I flew back, was just going to stay here for like 6 months or a year. And right at that time, Tim said, hey, man, I'm starting a band. And I want you to do I'd love for you to do the visual show for it. I was like, what do you mean visual show? And he's just like, you're an artist. Let's just get like some slide projectors and let's do this old school Fillmore West kind of old school analog visual show for my band. So I was like, all right, well, I can do that while I'm waiting to get back to the Bahamas. And sorry, St. Thomas. I don't know why I keep saying that. But so from there, just like everybody at that age who doesn't have any money, it's like, well, we got to go to Goodwill and find something that we can use for a visual show. So we went and shopped at Goodwill, and there was a slide projector. And it had a wax pencil. It had $13 written on it with a wax pencil, and I didn't even have $13. So I rubbed the one off, and I went and bought it for $3. So that's how we started our show. And nice. Tim actually, he actually found these slides dumpster diving, which he just had this hobby that he liked to go into these trash cans and just see what he could find. And he found these like slides that were all melted by the sun and really super psychedelic. And we put them in the slide projector, got a sheet, and went to Club Dada, played 7 songs there twice. We played the set twice. And that was our first visual show. And then it just took off from there. And I never went to St. Thomas, never worked at the Hard Rock again.
So you just were basically doing live visuals for...
Yeah.
I wasn't in Dallas. How long did it take for Tripping Daisy to be something that was drawing a lot of people?
It was pretty quick. I'm probably going to mess up the timeline, but it felt like it was a couple months when it started to take off. And then we got a gig at Trees, and then all of a sudden there was a line around the block, and it just took off from there. So it was really quick. Our objective at the time, Tim was just like, dude, we need to bring big concert experiences into these smaller venues and do something different, Then I went and rented a warehouse, and I had a 360-degree, slide projectors and film projectors and overhead projectors constantly set up in my 12,000 square foot warehouse that There was like 12 of us living there, and so yeah,
That's cool.
that's really how the whole thing kind of got started.
Right, right. I mean, was that enough to support you, or were you doing other stuff at that point?
Yeah, it was actually way more than I needed at the time because we were selling out shows and we were a small group. There was 4 of them and 1 of me. So it was like Tim was cool. He was like, we're just going to split the money 5 ways. And so, yeah, it was a lot more than I was used to making. Actually, we did pretty good on some gigs. It didn't turn out so well when we got signed. It was like actually there was less money for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
After that, but it was fun. Went on the road, met Robert Plant in the bathroom. Yeah,
That's cool. Wow. I mean, did Tripping Daisy play some pretty big shows like outside of Dallas?
not so much outside of Dallas. I mean, they were more like what was interesting is, especially for a visual artist, is we didn't know anything about the venue before we got there. You're on the road, you pull up, you go into the venue, and you're like, what am I going to do here? And so that was an interesting test for me to kind of look at a room, say, what am I going to do to the room? And we were doing immersive experiences back then before it was called immersive, and so it didn't matter if it was like a basement that we were in and 8-foot ceilings. Tim would always say, man, don't worry about it. And I'm like, no, we're going to do something to hang them in the ceilings and, paint the venue however we could from top to bottom.
Huh.
So and then the next night we might be in a big theater, that seats 2,000 people.
So you're just always just figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah, on the fly.
That's cool.
Totally.
So at what point did you have to find another source of income? Like when the band stopped playing, is that kind of when you jumped out?
When, I fell in love and, had done the road thing for 3 or 4 years. And I just, at that time was just like, I don't want to be on the road anymore. I want to be here. And so I stopped doing visuals for Tripping Daisy and ended up doing a bunch of raves here.
Ah, okay.
And these raves were like in the grain elevator down in Deep Ellum, out in a field in the middle of nowhere. So that was kind of like taking it to the next level. And there was some good money in that because it was really, those were all about the visuals, even more than the music it was.
Huh, interesting.
But that's what I did after that. And I continued to do shows for Tripping Daisy, or when Polyphonic Spree came around, I continued to do shows for them when they were in town.
Okay. Did somebody go out with them and take your stuff with them on the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Allen, who I just kind of handed over all my equipment to, he took it from there.
Cool. Okay. So, what about, forgive me, how long has Poly been around, as a band?
24 years, I think.
Okay. So you've been doing stuff with them that whole time, more or less?
Off and on.
Yeah.
More so in the beginning. Then we did a Tripping Daisy reunion tour, in 2015. And then Polyphonic just every time they were in town.
Okay. What else? So you're doing the raves. There's at some point, you have this nice office. Were you doing stuff on computers?
Start making some money.
Yeah, exactly.
I started my own design agency shortly after the raves, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't listen to this music till 5 a.m.
I get that.
anymore. So I started a design agency with the guy that actually helped me with Tripping Daisy. He had a design background. I never even worked in Photoshop or on the computer because all the stuff I was doing was analog, built by hand. And started a design agency down at Southside on Lamar. And we did a lot of branding, marketing, a lot of corporate meetings and events. So kind of took what I did with that into the meeting space, where there's a lot of money in that.
Were people familiar with your work from the band, or is that completely different?
No, not really. I mean, anytime you start a business like that, you're going to the people that you know to begin with. Hey, do you know anybody? Do you need anything? And so I think some of it blossomed from that, but really was kind of starting over.
Right. Huh. Yeah, but then, and you're like learning all new technology, techniques.
Yeah.
Was that a big adjustment, or did you kind of make sense to you, or?
Not really at all. I mean, it was just like an evolution more than an adjustment, just like, okay, cool. This is the same thing I've been doing, just in a different outcome.
Right. Right. And then, I feel like your brother had mentioned that you were someone that could figure stuff out, like before other people could, with some of this, the graphic stuff. Is that accurate?
I think I've always approached things differently. I didn't go to school for graphic design. I didn't go to school for animation. And even when I was doing art, everybody was kind of doing the same thing. And I didn't even want to look at it, because I wanted to be like unique in some way.
Sure.
So, ask me who I'm inspired by and things like that. I have things that inspire me, but really when I was hardcore, just painting, drawing, and sculpting and doing stuff like that, I didn't want to look at anybody else's work. Mm-hmm. Really wanted to just kind of like figure out how to do it on my own, so that it would be something unique.
Right.
And so I think I took the same approach in graphic design and anything that I've done. Okay, well, everybody's doing it that way. I want to try something different. I've got a different take on it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but that's sort of the approach that I've always taken.
Okay. And are you still doing that kind of work? Are you still taking on corporate gigs and?
Not now at all, because since we made the film, we're full blown in the immersive space.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. First of all, the film is Resolution, and you won a couple of awards at South by Southwest for that.
Uh-huh.
And fingers crossed you're going to get a Grammy. Is that Grammy nomination?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like, how was that? Where did that idea come from to even do a film, and then what happened, the process of that?
Well, so it's kind of all of this is sort of not planned, but a natural progression and evolution. It's funny because when I thought of the concept about doing this film, sort of said, okay, I need somebody that can do marketing. Wait, I do marketing. Okay, I need to build a performa so that I can raise capital. Oh, I've done that. It's sort of everything that I'd done in my past, even though it wasn't a straight path, really helped me and assisted me in what I was doing with the film. But, you asked me, how do we get from that to a film? Tim always plays his music for me before he puts it out on an album. So we're just hanging out one day. He's like, hey man, I got some new stuff. I want you to hear it. And he played it for me on his, like, a voice memo. And I just was blown away by it. I felt like there was something unique about it, different than what he had done in the past. And really because it was kind of personal, it was just him on the guitar. And he was singing backup, and so there wasn't this grand thing behind him. Mm-hmm. It was just him really stripped down. And I heard it and I was blown away by it. I said, I told Tim, I said, I think this is the best thing you've ever written. And it's great that it's happening at this time in your life. Huh. And for him, it was like at a point where he wasn't sure that he could do it anymore. So it was a real introspective kind of thing that he wrote, and it blew me away. And I listened to it over and over and over again. And Tim and I have always talked about doing something different than the band and the visual show, like doing a Cirque du Soleil or something like something in Vegas or whatever. something that traveled without us too, that we didn't have to take it out on the road, that could go out on the road for us, right? And so we always had that in the back of our minds about doing something like that. When he played this for me, it was sort of at at this time in my life where one thing had ended, and I was like, all right, what's my next thing that I'm going to do? And in that void, you know, when you have those moments in your life, and the movie's about that too. In that void, there's always this space of like, oh wait, I can do whatever I want now. Like I'm not tied to this thing that I have to keep doing. That's over, and this new thing's going to happen. What is my next move going to be? And it was an opportunity that I felt like I wanted to sort of go back to the beginning. Heard this music from Tim, loved it, and I just said, Tim, I think we should do something totally different with this. And he said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking it needs to be a big show, and we need to do something where we can make it to where we can make this thing, whatever it is, that will go without us, like we've always talked about. And so as that started developing, you know, as luck would have it, I got this advertisement about this show at the planetarium in Denton. I was like, this is what we need to be doing. We talked about this a long time ago. We should do this for this album. Bought tickets for it and told Tim to come out. I said, come on, we're going to go to this show. We watched it and we were like, honestly, it was like I was blown away just by the venue and like what the experience could be, not necessarily the experience we were having. And so we walked out of there and my head was just going crazy. I mean, I said, Tim, we need to go back in and talk to this, to find out who the manager is, see if we can let's just do one show here. Let's just figure out how to do one show here. And because I think what we could do could blow away what we just saw, and your music's better than that, and I think I can do better art than that, and let's just go talk to him. And so we approached him, and he knew who the band was, and he was like, I'd love to help you guys out and tell you anything you need to know about what it takes to make a film like this, what the options are, what the opportunities are. And so we went down and we met with him and just kind of took off from there. And we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And now, you know, Tim's always been like this, like, okay, let's do it. And I'm always like, okay, well, we got to figure out how we're going to do it first.
Yeah.
And if this is like going to be a good business model for us to do. So I did all the math and figuring all that out, put together a pro forma about how much money we can make on it first to see if I could raise the money that it was going to take to build it. Because there was two options. Either we just like old school it and just put whatever up and it's just visuals, or we actually build a movie and tell a story that would require some funding and hiring people to help us on it. And so we went down that path and we found some funding and we're like, all right, we're off to the races. And that's how it started. That's how the concept of doing that became a reality.
Okay, so from the beginning, you're going to make a film that's specifically meant for a planetarium or a dome, like the Sphere kind of, sort of? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, exactly like that. And that helped us because actually we didn't know about the Sphere when we started talking about this, but before we got the funding, the Sphere popped up and it started hearing about that happening, and that this was going to be sort of this revolution of new technology coming out that would fit really well with what we're doing.
So that helped you sell it a little bit?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
for sure.
So I'm guessing it just became, like, right when you started, you probably had all kinds of problems to solve on how to make this stuff work in a different context on a flat screen?
Yeah, way, way different. You know, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time, how difficult it was going to be. But it started out with the storytelling and like, what is the story we're going to tell before we even figure out what we're going to do. So I think that was sort of Tim finished the album, right? But he had it in a specific order. And I said, all right, tell me what each of these songs mean. He said, I'm not going to do that. I want you to just tell me, I want your take on it. So I spent about 4 months just listening to the songs over and over and over again, on a loop for 4 months straight before I started figuring out what the meaning of all it was going to be and how I was going to construct it into a story.
Right. How long from the time that you had the idea till the time that it was finished?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. I don't think that sounds about normal. So 4 months, and then, I mean, was there points where you interpreted it a way where he was like, I don't think you're getting it, or?
No, because it wasn't really about the story. The way I attacked it to begin with was about what are you trying to say in the song, not how are we going to say it, but this is what this song means to me, Tim. It's about somebody that is overcoming obstacles and that looks like the world's caving in and they lean on somebody, or the next one's about, having empathy for somebody. And so I tied these emotions to each one of the songs and said, is this about empathy? Yeah, it is about empathy. Okay, not how's the story that we're going to tell about this particular song, because some of them are very linear and others are just like a feeling of what the emotion that I wanted to get out of the song,
I'm guessing the relationship made it a lot easier, because I feel like if you had just started working together, it might have taken you a lot longer to get on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, Tim and I, kind of like brothers, so we fight sometimes, just like family does. So sometimes, it took a lot for him to give me the leeway to do this. And had I not worked with him for 30 years, he would have never done it.
Right.
So yeah, there's things that but once we got the basic concept down and understood, like, okay, there's 1,000 ways we can get at the same solution, but the emotion of each of the stories, and this is the arc of the story, we're in lockstep in that. Like, this is what we want to tell, this is what we want to say, how we say it, and, then that's going to go in 15 different directions. And, I started writing individual pieces first before I even understood what the whole thing was going to be. Like Shadows on the Hillside, where the guy goes up and he's flying and, driving around his neighborhood in the car and all that. That was written from start to finish before I even connected it with anything else. So there were other pieces that were like that too, that, like when I approached the artist, it was like, hey, this is a story, this is a storyboard, here's how it's going to go. And then others were like, this is about childhood exuberance and how you felt when you rode on a bike when you were a kid and you left and you didn't come home till nighttime. It's about that feeling. And then the artist would say different things, hey, maybe, how about this idea?
So wait, so let me get, so you're directed the whole thing, but you would section off parts to give to certain artists to work on it? Is that how it went?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I hired basically a different team for every song.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody's doing two. Everybody had one. And just
some people ended up doing two.
Okay.
But really, it was basically everybody had their own song, and they had a little team that was creating that one song.
Were you like kind of giving them a general paintbrush so it had a cohesive feel to it, or?
Animation style, like we wanted it to be live action and animation. That was something that Tim was dead set on in the beginning. That was his influence of, like, he wanted this like Tommy kind of thing to where it was half animation, half live action. And so the way that so we picked different songs that we felt like fit with live action more than fit with animation. And it's just, it varied on every single one of them. Like for some of them, like I said, I may have had the entire story and here's what I want it to look like. But I picked the artists that and their styles that I wanted for each song. So it wasn't like I had to tell them what to do. It's like, you do this thing. I love the way you do it. Here's what the story is. I want you to do what you do with this story.
So these are all artists that you already had worked with or were familiar with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, some of them, frankly, you know, when you get in the rave scene and you get in the VJ world, everybody's borrowing everybody's stuff and cutting other stuff with it and putting effects on it and just getting art from everywhere, you know? It's kind of a common thing in that space. And so some of the artists I'd used their artwork before, and I'm like, man, you're my favorite animator. You know, I even told them, I said, look, I've used your stuff on shows before because it fits with what I'm doing. And I love it. You're my favorite animator in the world. Now I've got this project that I want you to come in on, and, you know, approached them and never met them before. You know, all the artists I'd never met before.
Oh, but you were familiar with their work.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Huh.
And some of them I just went on a wild goose hunt to find, you know, a style that I had in my head that would fit with what I was looking for. I wanted it to be not an artist that sort of, I wanted artists that actually had a style to what they did, and that I enjoy, like I like their style, like the kind of stuff that they do. So I picked artists that art style would fit in the song that I felt matched with the song. Just like I do when I'm doing visuals. It's about hearing a song and what's the visual that represents that.
Cool. Okay. Actually, I didn't ask any questions about that, your live technique, and when you're doing shows, like, is that stuff spontaneous? Is it a mix of prepared and?
It's a mix. Like, I know 3 or 4 pieces that I'm going to put with each song, and where I'm going to put them, or the order, you know, how I'm going to mix back and forth and what effects I'm going to use is all just happens on the spot.
Is there a big difference between like a Tripping Daisy versus a Polyphonic Spree show as far as what your approach is and execution?
I mean, it's same approach, but, you know, it's just a different style, so it has a different energy to it, you know? So,
yeah.
I mean, some of the songs have this same kind of energy. Some are like, there's no, there's no darkness to any Polyphonic Spree song, and there is to Tripping Daisy, you know. So there's a different style in some of them.
Are those the only 2 bands you've done visuals besides the raves?
Back in the 90s, I can't even remember all the bands that I did stuff for. But you know, sort of during Tripping Daisy and after Tripping Daisy, like Tablet and some other bands that Poppins I did some work with. Like, just I can't even remember all the bands. I did a bunch of different shows.
It's interesting because I was in LA in bands and nobody was doing this back then. None of my friends even thought about it. You know, I think I tried to convince somebody to do like some kind of old-fashioned show, and he just didn't get it together. It never happened. But
yeah,
you know,
it was happening. I mean, you know, once we sort of started doing that again, you know, it's not like it hadn't been done before. It was done a lot in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But it kind of revitalized that, at least in Dallas. We started like seeing other bands that were doing that, the visual shows that were happening with the raves and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of artists that were doing it here in Dallas in the 90s, for sure.
So getting back to the film, so you finished it, you showed it in Denton first, was that where and then at some point you're like, this can be something we can show all over the place. Like,
yeah, I mean, we felt like it was to begin with, but, you know, in the process of making it, we went out to Denton every week. So for a whole year.
Wow.
So Fridays were our Denton day, and that's where we saw the work that we had created for the week.
Oh, you like check it out? Oh, okay.
Because the process of that, like you you can see it in a VR headset, and simulate what it's like in a dome, but it's not the same. So,
Yeah, I guess, I mean, for the live action, like, how is that? I guess I just don't have a concept of how you translate that to a atmospheric experience.
well, it depends like what camera you're shooting with, right? So there's like a Titan. It's a 360 camera, which we did the campfire with. That's already made and ready for the dome. So you just put it on the ground. Everybody sits around. We're in a giant green screen dome, so we can cut everything out, and that translates to the dome right away. And then there's fisheye lenses that are over 180 degrees because the dome isn't 360, right? The dome's 180, right? Because it's half of a
Right.
it's a hemisphere. And so if you think about like a fisheye lens, a giant fisheye lens, it almost looks like a dome. And so you would shoot with it almost instead of like this, you would almost shoot like straight up because this part would be filming you. And then the rest, all this is over your head. So if you think about you sitting in a dome, you would be looking at you. So it would need to be sort of the same angle as a dome. And that was really hard for everybody to understand that hadn't done it before. Because you think about like how you're going to block a shot. And, if you want to get a close up, I'm going to get tied in with a frame. And I'm going to cut off the top of your head and the bottom of your chin. I'm going to get real tight. And that's completely different in a dome because the eyes would be behind you. You'd be looking at a mouth, So it's like it's a circular format, and you're really this bottom third is the sweet spot where you sort of keep the audience focused on that. And the other stuff it might pass you by, and you might turn around and look at it, but the story happens sort of in the front of it.
That's hard to, I get it, but
yeah,
I can see how that would be an adjustment period for
it's
people.
adjustment for everybody. I hired a technical director, Ryan Hartzell, who works here at Cinephonic with me. We're partners on Cinephonic, and his expertise was in VR, and he was great at it, but even for him, it was like, this is different because VR is 360, right? And so there's some of the same concepts, but, it was an adjustment for him. It was an adjustment for everybody who shot live action for us, all the animators. Our film has a mixture of like 2D cel-shaded animation, old school Disney style, like hand-drawn stuff, all the way up to Quill, which is like actual hand-drawn animation that you do in a VR headset. You like get in this empty room, walk around and paint all around. So it's a three-dimensional object that you're looking at. So that's already built for a dome, so that's easy.
Right.
And then some of the, Cinema 4D and some of the 3D software is also, you can put a fisheye lens in there. And so some of those are easier, but translating like the 2D stuff was really difficult because you're trying to get somebody who's a great artist who works in a flat space and they've never worked in a dome before. So we built these templates to try and get them to sort of get in our world with that, and it was impossible to accomplish. So what we ended up doing was saying, you just do what you do and give us all your layered files, and then we deconstructed all the pieces and put them back together and made them work in a dome. So that's kind of a unique procedure that I don't think anybody's done or probably won't do again because
you're figuring that out on the fly, basically, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the same kind of thing that you were mentioning earlier. It's like, okay, well, yeah, this is the easy way. You just get a 360 camera and we're going to do whatever we can with that. But how do we make 2D art and put 2D art in a 3D space?
That's blowing my mind a little bit. That's really cool. So then you have this film, and you can show it in planetariums. I guess like you're also like making pop-up tents to show it in, something like that.
Yeah, so the first pop-up that we did was at South by.
Okay.
So, we had an opportunity that they wanted our film down there, and we didn't know how we were going to show it, so we were able to erect a dome actually in the Fairmont Hotel. It's like a 8 meters, so like 24-foot dome that's about 14 feet tall, fit about 25, 30 people in it. And so we brought that experience down to South by Southwest, and it was the first time they had ever had a dome in the exhibition floor. They'd had them outside before,
Okay.
but they never had one that was in competition, basically. And so we did that. It was a huge success. We had lines all the way around the building. We were sold out every show. It was nuts.
Wow.
Met amazing people there, and we ended up winning the audience award there. So that was our first outside of Denton. Well, we were doing Denton at the time, and we were doing the Omni Theater. We were launching the Omni in Fort Worth a week before South by. We were trying to do both of those things at the same time, which was nuts. So we launched that, left, went down to South by, put the dome up there, and won the award. And from there, it was like kind of took off. Got a lot of interest from a lot of different people. I mean, the cards I got, I was just like, I can't believe like who I'm. This card, like some guys at Industrial Light and Magic that are like, head of Industrial Light and Magic. They're sitting in this dome watching our film. We don't even know who they are, and they introduce themselves afterwards. We're like, oh my God,
wild,
So we met with a lot of them afterwards. They're really interested in what we're doing, and really kind of just put us in this different categories to where of the collectively of who we were speaking with, and it really launched sort of what we were doing. And so then we got in the SAT in Montreal, which is a great planetarium and real high profile planetarium. And then we've got Valencia, Spain, who we're talking to now, and Netherlands, and all these, all around the world, these really like major planetariums, like that aren't just like old kind of planetariums that are at schools, but they're premier venues are talking to us right now about getting it in there.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Is this something that you could maybe get for home, like a VR unit to watch it? Or?
Yeah, we're actually on the Apple Vision Pro right now. And
okay.
That's what we had to get on there in order to qualify for the Emmys. And we were thinking about doing it later, but we're on the Apple Vision Pro in an app called Sandwich Theater. And so they sort of did what Ryan did, which was we built a dome so that we could sit inside in VR, so we could sit in the dome and watch it and try to experience it. And so they built an app that does that, and it's actually modeled after the Omni Theater. So it's like sitting in there. And on the Apple Vision Pro, it's like the quality's insane.
Wow.
So yeah, we're on that. Don't really have any plans. I mean, our plan was to do that eventually, but we're on there a little earlier than what we thought we would be.
Cool.
But.
And you're saying you got some stiff competition, but hoping for a Grammy nomination at the least.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty impossible, but just qualifying for that and being on the ballot with some of the folks that are on there, idols of mine, is incredible. And I'd be shocked if somehow we pull that off.
Well, we're pulling for you for sure.
Yeah.
We're getting near the end here, but is it like, are you thinking about your next project? And is it going to be something similar? Is it going to be something totally different?
We definitely want to do this. This is a primary focus of ours, which is taking albums and making an art piece out of it, making a film out of it, is definitely what we want to do. There's a lot of other things that we're involved in, live performances in domes, building our own venues, these pop-ups that you're talking about, talking to some cities about doing that. Hopefully that happens. That gives us more control over the venue and how we, what kind of content we put in there. We've got a new film that we're pitching right now, and an immersive experience exhibition that goes along with it, so it can travel to different museums.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and just pedal to the metal.
Right. Yeah. And I got to see John 22 show your brother at the Epping Grand Prairie, where you were able to do both a video screen and on the fountain.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of fountain shows, and that was by far the best one.
Well,
not
thanks.
even close. I know they're excited to have met you out there.
Yeah.
So I guess really
we're
it's,
excited to have met them.
Yeah.
Really, it's a incredible venue, and man, we got some stuff planning.
Yeah.
Them, so.
Oh, I'm excited. I hope all of it happens. I'm privy to some of it, but
Yeah.
well, cool. So basically, you're just out there finishing this run and of showing this movie where you can, and then on to the next one. It sounds like
In tandem,
okay.
There's a long process because there's about 3,000 venues that we could get this in.
Wow.
So that's going to take years to even get to all the venues.
Sure.
So that'll be happening in conjunction with the other things that we're doing at the same time.
Right. Awesome. Scott, thanks for bringing me out to the studio and talking with me. And we will definitely be looking out and pulling for you for that hopeful Grammy. And Grammy. And, Emmy, right?
Grammy.
Grammy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We didn't make the Emmys. We were up for an Emmy as well, but
Okay.
we didn't get to the next round.
Yeah. I don't know how that works. If like you just had the word of mouth has to be bigger or just the competition's just crazy, but
Yeah. I mean, people know who John Lennon is, and they know who Elvis is.
yeah, it's weird.
They know who Bono is. I mean,
Yeah.
those are all ones that we're up against. So
It doesn't sound like that's different. You're making out to be a much
and
worse
that's
than it
three
is.
of about 30 at that same level.
Right.
So when you hear somebody say, "Oh, it's just so great to even be in," I mean it. It's
Yeah.
like, come on.
Right. Totally.
I'm not gonna win. No problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, win or lose, fantastic product. It's exciting, and thanks again for coming on and talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it.
I'd like to thank Scott Berman for joining us. Definitely check out Resolution when you get a chance. The links will be in the show notes. Thank you to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record here. Theme song Unstoppable by Celine Narala, and the outro is The Place to Be by Electric Ants. Thanks again to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for their support. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast, and we'll see you next week.